Hey everybody, Ryan Gromfin here, author, speaker, chef, restaurateur, founder of therestaurantboss.com as well as restaurantcoachingclub.com. And today I wanted to talk about inventory turns, or just inventory in general actually. This is going to be one of the easiest, well I shouldn't say easiest, this is going to be one of the fastest ways for you to lower your food cost and put cash into your pocket. So let's get right into this and talk about inventory and what an inventory turn is. Well, quickly, when we talk about inventory, there's a lot of confusion sometimes, especially with cooks to owners. Owners, I think, have a better general grasp on how important it is to keep a low inventory and what inventory means to your bottom line, because you cannot pay bills with inventory. When a bill shows up from one of your vendors, you can't trade them a box of steaks for it. You have to write them a check. You have to give them cash. And when there's food sitting on your shelves, that's cash that's not in your pocket. So it's very important to keep inventory low. And a lot of us are keeping track of our inventory. We're doing weekly or monthly food costing. Some of us are just doing yearly food costing. But either way, we're keeping track of inventory, but we don't really know what to do with that number. We don't really know where that number should be, how high it should be, how low it should be. And today I'm going to show you exactly where that number should be. But again, let's get right into this. So you cannot pay bills with inventory. And like I said, cooks sometimes, I have a hard time with this. When they see a lot of food or when they over prep things, they say, oh, well, it's not going to go bad. What's the difference? I go, well, you know, you may have prepped something, I don't know, let's just say something that's non-perishable, like a jam or a jelly, let's say. You may make 2 gallons of it and use all of this frozen fruit to make that. The problem is that now I'm stuck with 2 gallons of jelly, let's say, that's going to last me a month. They say, oh, well, it's one less thing we have to do. It's not going to go bad. But on the other hand, that's a month worth of dollars that you aren't going to get access to for a while. So remember, we cannot pay bills with inventory. Lower inventory means lower waste. The less food there is on your shelves, the less stuff can go bad, the less stuff can get spilled, contaminated, just et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I always like to keep inventory tight. I always find when I have a tighter inventory, you just got less waste. Plus, when a cook is going to grab, let's say, soy sauce, when you've got a 5-gallon bucket of soy sauce, a little bit more here, a little bit more there, or they spill a little, it's not that important. But when you've only got 2 inches left or a couple of ounces left in that soy sauce bottle, they're going to be much more careful about how much they give to customers, how much they use in their recipes, how much they waste, etc. So lower inventory, lower waste. Lower inventory is less spoilage. I think I already talked about that, about things going bad sitting on your shelves. You know, a lot of times we'll order a box of lemons. We'll save 3 or 4%, which equals about, I don't know, $1 or so on a box of lemons, let's say. But if there's 100 lemons in that box and I'm saving 5% on the lemons, if 5 lemons go bad because that box sat on my shelf for 3 weeks, I broke even. If 6 lemons go bad, I lost money. So, you know, there's times when you want to order in bulk, there's times when you don't. So lower inventory, lower spoilage. Lower inventory, less theft. Sometimes, you know, we don't want to believe that theft happens in our restaurants, but I always say unless you can prove that it's not happening, you have to assume that it is. So again, with less inventory, there's less theft. It's more obvious to the naked eye when you walk in. If you knew that there was only 2 steaks on the shelf last night and then now there's only 1, that's going to be quite obvious. But when there's 70 or 80 steaks on a shelf, it's a lot easier for one to go missing. Same thing with beer and such. And then obviously just lower inventory, lower food cost. Lower food cost means cash in your pocket. So how are we going to track and lower our inventory? I'm going to go over that here. We're going to talk about it by measuring how many times we turn inventory over per month or per period. It depends how you're doing your accounting, if you're doing it per month or per period. But either way, we're going to measure how many times we actually turn that inventory. And we're not talking about turning the inventory in actual bottles on and off the shelf, because some of your stuff you're going to go through on every 1 or 2 days, let's say, and some stuff will sit on your shelf for a couple of weeks. Some stuff will sit on your shelf for a couple of months. So we're going to measure it in dollars. And what we call that is an inventory turn. That's what we talked about earlier in the video, an inventory turn in dollars, not in actual product. So let's get right into this. So what is an inventory turn? It's usage divided by your average inventory equals how many times you turned it. So again, that's usage divided by average inventory. I'm going to show you how to calculate all 3 of these numbers here. So in order to calculate usage, or what most of us know usage as is our cost of goods sold, it's the same calculation. It's beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory equals your usage or your cost of goods sold. So remember, that's your beginning inventory plus your purchases minus your ending inventory equals your usage or your cost of goods sold. So you might want to write this down. You might want to take some notes, or I'll leave this up for one more second here. That's beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory equals your usage or cost of goods sold. Okay, so then to figure out average inventory, that's a simple average calculation. So beginning inventory plus your ending inventory divided by 2. So in most of your cases, your beginning inventory is the ending inventory of the previous month or period. So let's say we're doing this calculation for February. Your beginning inventory would be January's ending inventory. And then obviously the ending inventory is February's ending inventory. And then divided by 2 gives you your average inventory. So now that we know how to calculate the usage or cost of goods sold and the average inventory, we can figure out our turns. Now I'm going to show you a real world example here of a restaurant that I was consulting with last year. So here we have the calculation again. I wanted to show you in case you haven't had a chance to write it down yet. And then here's a real world example. So this particular restaurant had a beginning inventory in this month of $34,202, plus they purchased $33,324, and then they had an ending inventory of $34,548, which gave them a usage of $32,978. Now let's figure out their average inventory. Again, we got both of these numbers from the previous slide. The 34,202 plus the 34,548 divided by 2 gives us the 34,375, which is the average inventory. And then now we calculate that. So the usage divided by average inventory is 0.95. Now what that means is that this particular restaurant turned their inventory in dollars less than 1 time per month. That means that they actually had more food on their shelves than they actually used in that period. They had a little bit more food. So in a perfect world, which never exists, in a theoretical world, this restaurant could have not purchased 1 penny of food for the entire month, and they would have still had food left over on their shelves at the end of the month. Now, obviously, we know that that's not realistic because certain things like produce and lettuces and things we're going to go through quick. Other things like pastas and stuff, we're not going to go through as fast. So what is a number that is going to work in your restaurant? Let me show you kind of industry averages or industry goals, actually, that you should be shooting for. So for food, and remember, you can do this calculation for food, for beer, for liquor, for wine, for anything that you keep track of in your restaurant. So basically for food, I like to set a goal of more than 4 inventory turns per month. So that means that you only have enough food on your shelves at any given time for 1 week of service. Now, again, I shouldn't say food. You only have enough dollars on your shelf for 1 week of service. And I say 4 plus because depending on the kind of restaurant that you're operating, you might want to turn this even faster. If you're operating a quick service or a fast food restaurant that's high volume, probably low storage space, very small menu, a very neat and tight and like I said, small menu, you're going to probably shoot more for 5 or 6 turns per month. And that's going to help you not only burn through food, keep your storage down, keep the food costs low, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this hotel was a pretty large property that had a very varied menu. They had multiple dining outlets. They had banquets and catering, et cetera. So they had to keep a pretty wide menu. So for them, we set a goal of about 3 to 4, but I like to just shoot for the goal of 4. It's easy to remember. It's 1 turn per week. Beer, same thing, depending on your volume, 3 to 4 turns. Beer is perishable. Again, it's easy to steal, it's easy to waste, it's easy to give away, so I like to keep that stuff moving pretty quickly. Liquor, we all have that bottle of Galliano in the back of the bar that just sits there for 5 or 6 years or 10 or 12 years. So liquor, we keep that a little lower, 1 to 2 turns. Again, you're going to have those bottles, those high-end Macallans, the Galliano, some of those scotch and whiskeys that you're not going to go through as much. But then in your well, I mean, you should be flying through the stuff in your well and your calls and stuff. So keep liquor at about 1 to 2. Again, these are just averages. More than anything, I want you to just be kind of aware of what you should be shooting for and tracking. And then wine, Anywhere around 1, I'm happy. Depending on your list, if you've got a list where you've got older bottles, more expensive, you're aging your wine per se, probably less than 1, maybe 0.3, 0.4 turns per month. If you're a quick service or a family restaurant and you only have 6 or 7 wines and they're not expensive and you're not aging them and you're not really keeping a list of inventory, then you're probably going to blow through wine pretty quick. You should be at about 1 to 2, just again, depending. So here are some ways that we can lower our inventory. We want to start tracking it. Most of all, we got to track it. That old expression, what we inspect, we expect. So make sure that you're at least tracking your inventory. And if you're already doing a food cost and you're already taking inventory, this is just one more step that you can add to get an idea of how quick you're turning it over and what it actually means. A lot of us are taking our inventory, but the only reason we're taking inventory is to have a P&L at the end of the month and for accounting. But what does it mean? That's where these turns really come into place. Another way is don't buy in bulk. I already touched on that a little bit, so I'm not going to go into that. My general rule of thumb on buying on bulk is, what is your inventory turn goal, and will you go through it within that period? If your inventory turn goal is 1 a week, only buy in bulk if you're going to go through that product in a week. If you're not going to go through that product in a week, don't buy it in bulk, unless there is a giant, insane cost savings. But generally speaking, the bulk cost savings aren't worth pulling the money out of your pocket and leaving it on your shelves. Eliminate blind ordering. What I call blind ordering is when the chef or somebody, instead of actually going through the restaurant and actually writing down what we have and what we need, they just sort of sit in their office and take a list and a mental image of, yeah, we need a couple of these, a couple of those. I think I've got some of this on my shelf. No blind ordering whatsoever. I want to see an order guide, and I want to see your chef or your kitchen manager actually going, or yourself actually going through and doing the ordering based on what is actually on the shelves. Schedule your orders. So I don't like the just random ordering. Again, when we set up our systems, when we take away all of that randomness, we systematize things a little better. We set up systems and procedures, and we have expectations, and then we can plan on it. We know when we're ordering. Cooks know when we're ordering. Everyone knows when the new deliveries are coming in, so we can plan accordingly. I don't like just, oh, okay, well, I guess we need some stuff, so let's do an order today. Or I guess we need some stuff, or we don't need anything, we'll wait till tomorrow. I set up my orders. My big orders would always come in on Mondays and Thursdays. Monday was a 4-day period till Thursday, and then Thursday I would do my order Thursday for Friday delivery, which got me through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then I knew I had new stuff coming in Monday. So I always did my big orders Sunday for Monday and Thursday for Friday. Again, depending on your restaurant. Produce, I would try to do produce 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes 5. It just depends on your restaurant, but I like to have set days where I do the ordering. Don't let vendors order for you. This happens a lot in the bar. Don't ever let a vendor order for you. I don't even want vendors stepping onto your property. Call them, tell them what you need. The only reason a vendor should come onto your property is if you're tasting something, or if they're cleaning your lines, or showing you a demo on some products. But I don't want vendors coming in, snooping around and dropping hints in my ear of what I need to be buying, what I don't need to be buying, how much I should be buying, et cetera, et cetera. I don't let them in. I don't want them around. And then don't always take that free bottle. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you buy a 6-pack of Absolut, you get the Absolut iced tea for free. Or if you buy a 6-pack of Patron, you get the Patron XO for free. Well, this hotel that I was just talking about, I walked into the back, there was 14 bottles of Patron XO. It wasn't selling, it wasn't on a menu anywhere, they were just building it up. Plus, they had about 38 bottles of regular Patron, and then when we went back and did the math, they were only going through Patron at about 1 bottle per week. That's 38 weeks of Patron, let alone all that other free stuff. Now, I know it's free, but the point is again, what is your goal? If your goal is to turn inventory on liquor 2 times a month, let's say 2 turns per month, so every 2 weeks, don't take that free bottle unless you're going to go through the amount that you're ordering in those 2-week periods. So the free bottle isn't always free. I hope this helped you guys a lot. Again, this is Ryan Gronfin with The Restaurant Boss. Please go ahead and below this video, whether you're watching it on YouTube, whether you're watching it on my blog, or whether it's embedded on someone else's website, there's always a place for you to leave a question or a comment. I check those on a daily basis, and I'll be sure to get back to you again. Have a wonderful day. I hope this helped, and please reach out to me if you got any questions or comments.